It was just about to get dark and we were going around a corner and the dirt road just pulled us off the road going around the corner. So we went rolling down the little mountain gully area, and I was with 2 other people, but I was in the middle of a small truck and I got squished onto the floor of the truck. And so I blacked out while we rolled, thank goodness, and then woke up and I was instantly paralyzed.
I started to lose my vision at 18 as a result of a medical issue that caused damage to the optic nerve.
My life changed 10 years ago this summer. I was in Cascade at summer camp, 39 years old, just walking around the camp, and at one moment I just felt this really strange pain in my chest. What had happened was, I was probably born with it, but I had a small tumor of blood inside my spinal cord. And at that moment, undetected, this tumor had grown probably all my life. At that moment, that tumor burst. It was just blood. There's blood all over in the body. Well, blood's not supposed to be inside the spinal cord. And at that moment, the blood was just searing and burning the nerves. And the pain was just spiraling out of control. But 12 hours later, I was paralyzed for life. There was nothing I could have done. It's like being struck by lightning. When you have a spinal cord injury, you never know what you're going to get. My sense of taste really, it changed just because it just affected the nerves in a bizarre way. And my taste has dramatically changed on just part of my tongue, and different foods don't taste the same.
I think a lot of people have heard about neuroplasticity, where an opposite sense is heightened because your body can focus on it now that it doesn't have to focus on the one that was lost. And I've always been intrigued by that. And I thought, okay, what happens if 5 people who have an optimum opposite sense come together? That would be almost like a superhuman.
It sort of had this unique take on how to explore disabilities without making people come across as disabled, but the exact opposite.
There's a hidden sixth sense in the film, and that sixth sense is humanity. It's the one thing that brings them together. These 5 characters are able to get to the next level of their sensory enlightenment through the support of each other.
But I think what this movie shows is exactly that these people are incredibly viable human beings. They're just like the rest of us, except maybe a little bit more evolved in certain ways.
Reality of life is we all have a disability. It's just some of them you can see and some of them you can't.
When you're doing a movie like this and you see things through the perspective of any, it doesn't matter what part it is, what actor, what role, that it becomes very authentic.
For me, one day I just kind of thought, okay, this is the experience that I'm having. And you have 2 options. You can embrace it or resist it.
I can tell you to this day I now know why. And so for me, mentally, it was really about just figuring out what I was supposed to do with myself to be happy, but also to help others.
It was that year when I just decided, hey, you know what? I've got a choice here. I could either fall in a black hole and never be happy again, or I could make the best of this, have a good attitude, and just try to just be as normal as anyone else.
We are more alike at our core. There may be small differences between us, but our experiences, our feelings, our thoughts are all something we share in common.
When I learned about the project and met Doug, he said his idea was that he wanted to use people that weren't actors, people that actually had the disability to do the acting, and I loved it.
So I think my favorite part of this whole project is that taking the time to find people who actually do have these disabilities versus actors. Being disabled, you can automatically tell if somebody truly is a wheelchair user or not. It'll just make it more apparent in the public what it's actually like.
I think it really shows that this group is open to everyone, and this group has also acknowledged that there's value in all people.
I think that it's really beautiful. We're making this movie come together So a person who is deaf and a person who is blind, how the hell are they going to communicate? And I think that's something that will intrigue people in general. Very rarely, I can't even think of a single film that has both deaf and blind characters. So I think this is unique and really sends positive messages.
I will be playing a young lady in a wheelchair whose heightened senses are due to her not being able to sense touch.
I am doing some acting, but I've also been a consultant for the script on cultural implications, ASL translation, and provided some ideas. For the trailer, my role is to play a character who can't smell. But in the larger project, my role has been an ASL coach.
I'm involved as the guy that gets to drive the boat to transport all of the wizards of film and the real talented folks. But I've also been on the committee that has been part of Doug's idea and just part of the brainstorming. And I've been kind of a, I guess, some semi-liaison for just some ideas about disabilities and mobility. Once people really read the script, they saw where this could impact lives and how people could eventually see this film, and it would help break down barriers.
Just making more of the world accessible, I think, is what this film could do. People with disabilities do have heightened senses, then they're gonna think we're cooler.
In general, a society defines what the disabilities are. People who have different abilities aren't the ones setting those definitions. Society at large has created a system that has some barriers, and that barrier is where the disability is. I think in this film, people will have opportunity to re-examine that.
I once heard from Ben Affleck, he was interviewed, and he said, why go to film school? Just make a movie, and along the way, you'll learn how to do it.
The problem with the Idaho market right now, because we don't have a lot of professional film coming in here, is that people don't get a chance to be mentored on the set. There's no one book that you can read. That's something that you absolutely have to learn.
The idea was that they would bring in a lot of young kids, students, people that don't have as much experience as a mentorship program.
And I think that this is such an effective way to go about breaking down barriers. I mean, we have brand new people on this set who have completely varying abilities from the professionals that they're learning from. And I see that connection also taking place within the humanity of the story. It's a really beautiful connection between what's happening in front and behind the camera.
So the fact that this film provides an opportunity to give back, to have seasoned individuals here in the Treasure Valley and elsewhere actually work with people that just want to get into the filmmaking process, it was extremely important.
He's like, I won't let this movie be made if there isn't an education element. You know, if you're not bringing on people like me who know what they're doing but otherwise might not get these opportunities because they're just, you know, young and inexperienced.
In theory, we mainly learn about like the director and the producer, because often like you just think, oh, you just need a camera. Whereas like you need lights, like you need the key light, you need the backlight, you need the stands and the flags, and like there's just, I think that's so cool to learn.
My experience here, I've worked on a few other sets, and this one by far has been the most where it's felt like a family, where everybody is on the same page and we're all working for one big dream.